For 7 long centuries, two titans of the ancient world locked horns in a conflict that reshaped history. This wasn't just a series of battles, it was an epic, 700-year-long war between the Roman and Persian empires. Struggle so vast and enduring, it's often called the First True World War. Forget what you think you know about Roman legions marching unopposed. In the east, they met their match. This story begins in 53 BC, with one of Rome's most infamous disasters. The ambitious triumvir, Marcus Licinius Crassus, one of the richest men in history, led his legions into Mesopotamia, dreaming of glory and conquest. He wasn't just fighting any random tribe, he was challenging the mighty Parthian Empire, the first of the Persian powers Rome would face. At the Battle of Carrhae, the Romans learned a brutal lesson. Their heavy infantry, so effective in Europe, was completely outmaneuvered by the Parthian horse archers. And their famous Parthian shot, feigning retreat only to turn and fire a devastating volley of arrows, Crassus was defeated, captured, and according to legend, executed by having molten gold poured down his throat, a grim symbol of his insatiable greed. This humiliating defeat set the stage for centuries of conflict. The lost Roman standards became a symbol of national shame, something that future leaders like Augustus would spend years trying to recover through diplomacy rather than force. The Romans, being Romans, never forgot a defeat. Figures like Mark Antony tried to avenge Carrhae, but he too was pushed back. The frontier between the two empires, stretching across the deserts and mountains of the Middle East, became a permanent war zone. Fortresses were built, cities were besieged, and armies clashed time and time again. But why couldn't either side land a knockout blow? The answer lies in logistics and geography. For the Romans, campaigning deep into Persian territory meant stretching their supply lines to the breaking point across arid, hostile terrain. The Persians faced the same problem when pushing west. It created a bloody equilibrium, a stalemate where victories were often temporary and devastatingly costly. Then, in the 3rd century AD, the game changed. The relatively decentralized Parthian Empire was overthrown by a new, more aggressive Persian dynasty, the Sassanids. Led by their first king, Ardashir I, the Sassanids were zealous Zoroastrians who saw themselves as the rightful heirs to the ancient Achaemenid Empire of Cyrus the Great. They didn't just want to defend their borders, they wanted to reclaim all the lands once held by their ancestors, which included Anatolia, Egypt, and the Lavental prime Roman territory. The Sassanids were a formidable foe. Their elite heavy cavalry, the cataphracts, were like walking tanks, covered head to toe in armor, both rider and horse. They could smash through Roman infantry lines with terrifying force. One of the most shocking moments came into 60 AD, when the Sassanid king Shapur I not only defeated a massive Roman army, but captured the Roman Emperor Valerian himself. This was an unprecedented catastrophe. An emperor in chains, Sassanid rock carvings still depict Shapur on horseback, with Valerian kneeling before him in submission. This was propaganda gold for the Persians and a source of deep anxiety for Rome. As Rome entered its crisis of the 3rd century, with civil wars and economic collapse, the Sassanids pressed their advantage, sacking major cities like Antioch. It seemed as if the Roman East was about to crumble. But Rome, as it so often did, clawed its way back. Emperors like Diocletian, and later Constantine, stabilized the empire, reformed the army, and pushed the Persians back. They even managed to sack the Sassanid capital Ctesiphon on several occasions. But holding it? That was another story. The city was always retaken, and the border would eventually settle back to where it was. This back and forth became the rhythm of history. A Roman emperor would win a great victory, be hailed as a hero in Rome, and then his successor would face a Persian counterattack. The Sassanid Shahanshah, or King of Kings, would push the Romans back, only to be distracted by nomadic invasions on their own eastern frontiers. The war was fought not just with soldiers, but with spies, diplomats, and proxy wars using allied Arab and Armenian kingdoms. It was a cold war as much as a hot one. One of the most famous Roman emperors to fall in this conflict was Julian, often called the Apostate for his attempt to restore paganism. In 363 AD, he led a huge invasion of Persia, seeking to emulate Alexander the Great. Initially successful, he marched his army all the way to Ctesiphon. But he couldn't take the city, and a scorched earth policy by the Persians left his army starving. During the retreat, Julian was struck by a spear and died. His grand ambition ended in failure, and Rome was forced to sign a humiliating peace treaty, surrendering key territories. For the next 2 centuries, the stalemate continued, punctuated by periods of uneasy peace and furious bursts of warfare. By the early 7th century, it felt like the final round was about to begin. The Sassanid king, Khosrow II, in response to the assassination of his Roman ally, Emperor Maurus, launched the largest Persian invasion of all. This time, it seemed different. The Sassanid armies didn't just raid, they conquered. They took Syria, Palestine, and in 614 AD, the holy city of Jerusalem, capturing the true cross, Christianity's most sacred relic. Then, they conquered Egypt, Rome's breadbasket. The Sassanid Empire now stretched from the Indus to the Aegean. The end of the Roman Empire seemed imminent. But then, a new Roman emperor, Heraclius, came to the throne. He was a brilliant general who refused to give up. He spent years rebuilding the Roman army, using church funds to finance what was framed as a holy war to reclaim the true cross. Instead of fighting the Persians, head-on in the occupied territories, Heraclius did the unthinkable. He launched a daring counter-invasion, sailing his army into the Black Sea and striking deep into the Persian heartland, bypassing their main forces. He caught Khosrow completely by surprise. For years, Heraclius campaigned in Persia, winning battle after battle. In 627 AD, at the Battle of Nineveh, he shattered the main Persian army. Khosrow II was overthrown and killed by his own son, and the Sassanids sued for peace. Heraclius had won. He returned to Constantinople a hero, the true cross restored. The Roman Empire had survived its darkest hour and seemingly won the centuries-long war. But this final apocalyptic conflict had utterly exhausted both empires. They had bled each other white, emptying their treasuries and decimating their armies. They were 2 battered heavyweights, barely able to stand after a 15-round fight. And they never saw the third force that was about to emerge from the deserts of Arabia. Just a few years after Heraclius' triumph, the newly unified Arab armies, inspired by the faith of Islam, exploded onto the world stage. They faced 2 empires that were hollowed out and fragile. The Sassanid Empire, racked by civil war after its defeat, collapsed completely within 2 decades. The Roman Empire, now known to us as the Byzantine Empire, lost Syria, Palestine, and Egypt all over again, this time for good. The 700-year war between Rome and Persia ended not with a winner, but with both empires being swept aside by a new power that would define the next chapter of world history. It's a powerful lesson in how even the greatest empires can fight each other into oblivion, creating a vacuum that is inevitably filled by something new. Thank you so much for watching. This epic struggle is one of the most fascinating and overlooked chapters in ancient history. If you enjoyed this journey, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the past, and let me know in the comments which historical rivalry you'd like to see covered next. See you in the next video.